I'll start with a quick review for this book, Willful. I'll give this book a 3 out of 5. It was kind of a mixed feeling about this one because there was really some really interesting ideas there. But I think like the writing was a little convoluted in a way. Not that was not like hard to understand, but it was kind of like a heavy. I wish it was like had a little more simplification to some of the sentences and maybe a little more details in some of the things that were, I wouldn't say complicated. I don't think that complicated is the right word, but I think it could be written a little better. But I really like some of the ideas are very interesting, based on the behavioral economics, thinking fast and slow. A lot of ideas from there, but it goes a little further into details and analysis of some of them, kind of a little philosophical at times and economical at the same time. So it was like kind of an interesting combination. And yeah, it was interesting, kind of like in between. That's what I said. It's like I wish the writing was done a little better. Some things are not fully make sense, but other ones are like, interesting idea. Let's see some of the notes I took while listening to the book. We often do things for the sport of it, or for oneself, even when it's irrational. So that's the idea of for itself, or for oneself. Like itself. We often do it for itself, and not because it's rational. We always have this rational. We do things because it's rational. That's the economics theory, that we do things only because it's rational. But the idea is that's based on a lot of behavioral economics. Many authors before him were talking about the same idea. Experiences chooses us, not the other way around. If we will purposely do something, it won't be meaningful. Experience chooses us. We can consciously do something and derive meaning from it. It won't be meaningful. For example, a challenge. We cannot choose. Sometimes we can, but we cannot. Sometimes if we will choose a challenge, constantly choosing a challenge would not be fun. But when it emerges, it's better. We often invest more than it's rational, often to satisfy or compete. We will do more than it's rational. So that's going against the rational theory. Sometimes we do it to satisfy some whatever need we have. We're competing. It's also investing more than we need. The man on the spot is knowledge that cannot be transmitted, rather can only be learned through experience. It's a good description, because there are some things you cannot learn. You have to be there. The way I understood it is because there is so many little things. It's not one thing. It's a profession in a way. You have to be there to learn it, and you can read books and learn this information. It's experience. It's the man on the spot knowledge. Picking individual stocks can have personal benefits and feel different. So it has some benefit, and it feels different too. Yeah, we feel we have more control and such and such, even though it's irrational again, but it has its benefits. Not all decisions can be justified based on existing metrics. I really like this one, because many times we try to justify things based on what we know, because that's what we know. We like, for example, if you're working in an investing company, you have to rationalize. You have to have justification for why you chose to invest, or if you want to invest, you need to have justification. But this is justification based on specific metrics that we already identified, but metrics we do not yet know you cannot use because we can't use them. No one would care for them. So that is like, there is a little disconnect there, which I think is really interesting. For itself, investing has some benefits such as independence and long-term views. You have independence, especially if you're doing it for yourself. You're independent. You don't have to go with the market. For example, I was reading this book during the COVID-19 pandemic, so individual stocks is much more popular because the regular investing turned up as not as beneficial or as superior in pandemic environment. And they also have their long-term views. If you really believe in that company, even though it doesn't make sense and it's not diversified, you have a difference, so it has its own benefits. For itself, ideas are very hard to transfer and convince other people of them. So that's for itself, things we do in a way, things we cannot explain, or very hard to transfer and convince people because many times there is no evidence in a way. It's kind of a hunch, it's an instinct. Therefore, it's really hard. But that's the idea, which I liked in this book, is that it doesn't reduce anything from the merit of it. Joseph had to put someone else in charge of buying crops because his ideas were very hard to commit to. It was just from the Bible because of the dreams Pharaoh. And the reason he decided to put someone else in charge is because that's the explanations they have. But I like that explanation, is because he knew that he won't be able to sustain the how do you say that, the backlash in a way of saving food for 7 years. Therefore, he put someone else in charge because he knew he might not hold up for the backlash. Side note, there's a lot of religious related ideas, for good and bad, For example, the one I just said, it's like there was a religious idea derived from it, and there's a few more. We are constantly putting price tags on people's life with speed limits, insurance, and protective equipment. So it's not like we don't do it. Sometimes people are like, oh, we shouldn't do it. We do it constantly. Speed limits, we understand exactly that, because if we lower the speed limit, there will be less deaths. And insurance, same thing. We pay a specific amount for someone if someone died, or protective equipment. We're willing to invest $20 more for a helmet or whatever to protect someone's life. But we would not be willing to pay $10,000 for protective equipment. So it depends. After the fact, rationalization doesn't discount the act itself. So that's an interesting point. Sometimes after the fact rationalization, we did something and then someone would ask us why. And we give all kinds of rationalization that considered in some way a bias. But that should not discount the act itself. The act itself was still good. The fact that you could not fully explain that beforehand doesn't mean it's not as good. It's a good point too. Prospect theory is about anchoring and referring to the specific point, even when it's irrational. So that's prospect theory. It's when we compare things differently. So if we're second place, we would, in a competition, we would feel bad. But if we're like third or fourth place, we feel good about ourselves because we almost didn't get anything. So third place, it's something. That's the idea. It's about anchoring and referencing to a specific point. I think it's by also was in the Thinking Fast and Slow idea. People are apparently like exercising choice, unlike the theory of paradox of choice. So you would think, because of the theory of the paradox of choice, that we're not going to see big menus and a lot of choice, but we can see that there is more and more choice, not less and less choice. The idea there is that people do like to exercise their choice. Maybe they buy less jam because that usually the study was done on jams, but people still like to exercise their choice, their exercising choice, freedom in a way. People want their job to be challenging and worthwhile, and not interested in getting free money. I would say it's most people. Some people definitely are interested in that, but most people want to have something meaningful in their life, and therefore they want to have a job. They do not want to work for free or get money for free. The main idea of the book is that people are motivated either by purposeful action or for itself. So there is mostly two options. So there is the purposeful, there is like a purpose, which want to achieve something, and there is the for itself, which is some kind of something we want to have for ourselves. The rational choice cannot explain all we do. So that's the rational or economic the economic theory cannot explain everything we do. We have to have more. There is more of it. It doesn't explain anything. That's also one of the main ideas in the book. You also try to piece the purposeful versus itself. Some of them it's like that, some of them it's like that. And that's it for the notes. So there is some, like I said, some interesting ideas. It's a 3 out of 5. I think you could do a better job at explaining some things. But overall, some interesting ideas. Maybe give it even a high 3, which is this low and high 3. So that definitely falls in the high 3, almost get a 4. That's it. Thank you.